Hello, folks. Something a little different today, February the 28th, because tonight it's Friday, and as always, Ed and I will be live with All In at 9 o'clock UK time, 4 pm Eastern Standard. Join us if you love a laugh, especially when we're poking fun at the news. So I've got a case here that will have you questioning what passes for justice these days. Today we're going to dive into the troubling case of Jagtar Singh Johal. If I mispronounce, sorry, I'm Scottish. But so's Jagtar. He's a Scottish Sikh man from Dumbarton. He's currently facing his 150th trial hearing in India. No, you heard me right. That's not a typo. 150 hearings. And still no conviction. After more than 7 years in detention? So let me set the scene for you. November 2017, Jagtar, a 37-year-old blogger and activist in his home in Scotland, had just gotten married in Punjab, India. 3 weeks into his marriage, while out shopping with his new wife, he was suddenly abducted off the street by plainclothes police officers, who hooded him with a sack and bundled him into a police car. We don't even do that in Scotland, people. The Indian authorities accuse him of financing terrorist activities, specifically delivering £3,000 in Paris back in 2013 to fund attacks against Hindu nationalists and religious figures in the Punjab. He faces 8 charges of conspiracy to murder related to alleged political violence in northern India. Now, as a 30-plus year veteran of law enforcement in one form or another, I know a thing or two about evidence, and what's striking here is the apparent lack of it. According to Johal's legal team, prosecutors have failed to present any physical evidence. No CCTV footage, no recorded conversations, no record of bank transfers. Essentially, they have a whole sack of nothing. Nothing concrete linking him to the alleged conspiracy. Instead, the case seems to rest primarily on confessions that Johal claims were extracted under torture. He alleges he was subjected to electric shocks on his earlobes, on his nipples, and let's just say other parts. Police reportedly brought petrol into his cell and threatened to burn him alive. No, this wasn't Guantanamo. No, sorry, I digress. To make the pain stop, he says he recorded video statements and signed blank pieces of paper that were later presented as confessions. Now, I've seen my fair share of interrogation techniques in my time, but this crosses every line in the book if true, and it's not beneficial. You cannot get to the truth by beating it out of people. It doesn't work. You have to be smarter than that. And if you think that's a good idea, I can give you some tips on how to interrogate people, but that's for another video. The Indian authorities, of course, deny these allegations. Completely deny them. In May 2022, the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention investigated the case and concluded that his detention was indeed arbitrary. Wow! And unlawful under international law. They determined he was targeted because of his activities as a Sikh practitioner and supporter, and because of his activism in writing public posts calling for accountability for alleged actions committed against Sikhs by the authorities. UN panel called for his immediate release, stating there had been violations of international human rights norms and standards, and multiple violations of his right to a fair trial. So despite being held since 2017, Johal's trial on the most serious charges only began in 2022 and is still ongoing. He's currently being held in Tihar jail. His brother, Gurpreet, has expressed concerns that Indian prosecutors could prolong the legal proceedings for many years if the UK government doesn't take action. Johal has been granted bail in some cases, but denied in others. So most recently, the High Court in Delhi denied him bail despite the fact that he spent 7 years in prison with no credible evidence being put forward against him, and his trials have been severely delayed. There's a political dimension to this case that can't be ignored. Before his arrest, Johal was an active blogger in Scotland, frequently discussing historical human rights violations experienced by Sikhs in the Punjab. His blog called for accountability for historic anti-Sikh programs in 1984 in India. The UN Working Group concluded his detention was on discriminatory grounds, owing to his status as a human rights defender and based on his political activism, religious faith, and opinions. The UK government's response has been criticised as inadequate by Johal's family. However, there may be reason for hope. It's a tenuous link here, and I don't mean to laugh, but recently, Foreign Secretary David Lammy met with Johal's brother Gurpreet, who described the encounter as constructive. Gurpreet, who serves as a Labour councillor, maybe that's why he thought it was constructive, said he feels considerably more hopeful that this new government will act correctly. As someone that's spent this amount of time in law enforcement, I find several aspects of this case deeply troubling. Prolonged detention without trial, allegations of torture, apparent lack of evidence, and 150 trial hearings without resolution all raise serious red flags about due process and human rights. In my experience, when a case drags on this long without a resolution, it's often because the evidence just isn't there. The prosecution keeps buying time, hoping something will materialise, or the accused will just break down and plead guilty just to end the ordeal. And we've seen that happen closer to home recently. What we're seeing here appears to be a man caught in a Kafkaesque nightmare of endless legal proceedings, potentially targeted for his political activism rather than any actual crime. What do you think? Is this justice being served? Or is it a man being persecuted for his political beliefs? I still want to know what the £3,000 was for though. Anyway, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe if you want more deep dives into cases like this. Stay skeptical, stay informed. I'll see you in the next video. Dismissed.